Hello there, this is Welsh ASMR 82. Hey, how you doing? So I've received quite a few comments about doing this video, and I've kind of got in my mind what I think has happened, but I'm going to say that I don't know everything, and it certainly hasn't been covered as much in the news here. So today I'm going to talk about the utterly bizarre situation that's happening with US men's football or national soccer team at the moment, and I kind of want you to jump in and give me some guidance in the comments as well, because a couple of you from the States and from Canada have offered me a couple of insights already, but I'm just going to say what I understand, and I'm happy for you to correct me or add or whatever. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. This is an ASMR video, so I'm going to talk really softly throughout, but the topic is a bit bizarre, so I'm not sure but maybe if you just kind of switch off, then the ramble might actually relax you and send you off to sleep, who knows. But if you enjoy the video, do click like, and please do interact and drop me a comment and let me know if you've viewed the situation, if you know more info, etc. Okay, so I'm going to take you to the start of the World Cup. The World Cup, obviously, this just happened in Qatar. The USA qualify after missing the previous World Cup. A little bit of expectation on their shoulders, a young team, highly talented, lots of their players plying their trade at big clubs across Europe. But people are thinking that it's a little bit too soon for them to go really far in the competition. But there's a quiet optimism, and they arrive in Qatar knowing that the next World Cup is going to be at home. So this is kind of the pre-show and an opportunity to give some of these young players who are going to be in a really good position in 4 years, a much more experienced position in these big teams across Europe like Juventus and Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea, Leeds. They're going to have experience of a World Cup under their belts before it takes place at home, on home soil. So they turn up to the World Cup, and the coach is a guy called Gregg Berhalter. And so all the players have arrived in their camp, and he's conducting the first couple of days of training. And he goes through the tactics with them, and he says, who is going to be probably in line for the starting 11. And he has to speak to Gio Reyna of Borussia Dortmund. And he says to him, look, you're not really in my first team plans, you're not my first 11 plans. So you're going to come on to, when everyone else is a bit tired in the middle of the pitch. And yeah, you're gonna support the others, and they're gonna start. So Gio is only how old is he? Like 20. He acts out. He's not happy about this decision. He's going from playing first team football in a massive club in Europe. He thinks he should be playing. He's a young kid. He has a little bit of a temper tantrum and a sulk. So he starts messing around in the training sessions during the day. So a couple of days later, Greg pulls him aside, says, look, you might be unhappy with this, but you need to buck up your ideas, support those players that are starting, certainly not disrupt them during the training sessions, because you're hurting your national team's chances of doing well. I'm sorry that you didn't like the news, but, just suck it up and get on with it. Your chance will come. Who knows, someone might get injured, maybe something like that. Gio sort of goes, yeah, that's fair enough, don't worry, I'm sorry that I mucked around, I accept your decision, and I'm going to take it more seriously. So they get out to the group, which is a tricky group with Wales and Iran and England. They perform excellently against England, probably should have beaten them. Hit the crossbar, just run rings around everyone, looked really, really good. Went out to the Netherlands in what was quite a close match actually. Missed their chance to get to a quarterfinal, but some might say that they overachieved with this really young squad. And if they can get to the knockouts with that squad, think of what they can do at home when all these players are 4 years older. Great. Not so great, because there's a separate timeline happening. So from the moment that Gregg Berhalter said to Gio Reyna, look mate, you're not going to start for us, that's the time that something else has started happening. Because Gio's basically phoned home and told his mum. Sounds really stupid saying it out loud. Obviously, you're upset about something, you're 20 years old, you want to vent, you might speak to your mum. I think that's absolutely fine. What happened next was just utterly bizarre, and this is where the controversy starts. His mum happens to be the best friend of Gregg Berhalter's wife, who incidentally, both of them, so Reyna's mum and Berhalter's wife, were both roommates for the women's national soccer team in the US back in the day. So they are long-term very close. And at this point, she's unhappy that Gregg, who she's apparently always had a bit of beef with, has done this to her son and said, look, you're not going to play, and told him off from acting up. So she basically, as far as I understand, I don't know what happens exactly next, so you might have to fill in the gaps. She either goes to the soccer association directly or she goes to the police. And she reports him for wife beating Gregg Berhalter, the coach. So what had happened was, when they were all in the national teams themselves, Gregg and the men's team, Reyna's mum and Berhalter's wife, who were in the women's national team, there was a night out, and Berhalter had an argument with his then girlfriend, and inexcusable. Obviously, this side of the story is inexcusable. He is having an argument with her outside a club, a pub, bar, whatever, and he kicks her. So, obviously, indefensible. Never ever should raise your hand to another human being, especially one that you're supposed to care about. And they break up, but then after a while, they get back together, and then eventually they get married. And we're talking about now, so we're talking like years and years ago. We're talking 20 years ago. So then Reyna's mum, in what looks like spite, she's been holding on to this information for years and years. She then reports him for domestic abuse. So the US team come home. They should be really, excited about what they did and what they might be able to do in the next tournament. And then Berhalter gets basically arrested, as far as I understand, or there's an or the police want to speak to him or whatever. So I think his contract was up anyway with the national team, but after that performance I think people were expecting him to get a contract extension because his tactics were amazing, to be fair. And that's just my opinion. I'd like you to weigh in on that as well if you agree or disagree. I think he got all of the major decisions right. Maybe not in the Netherlands match, but the Dutch can beat anyone on their day, so hey ho. So yeah, I think I've just opened up, I just had a little look at the most recent article, which I could find was 3 weeks ago on this on Sky Sports News. And they're saying that he is still in line for the coach's role, which is, I think, unoccupied at the moment. And they basically, they've done an investigation, and in that investigation they have found no further evidence of abuse. Women's charities will state that that's probably false. So I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not going to say whether I believe that to be true or not. Principally because something else happened recently, and a women's charity for domestic abuse survivors came forward and said, look, there might have been one kick, but to what extent was she manipulated emotionally, etc., etc. So we're not going to go down that road. You can't prove it, really, and usually domestic violence victims support the person who's in the relationship with them anyway. So she's more than likely not going to say anything has happened, even if it has. So we can't really comment on that. Because they found no firm evidence, which doesn't shock me, that it hasn't happened again, and there's nothing in their rule books that states that he can't be re-employed. Apparently that's what the article says. So he is in the running to get an interview with the job again. So yeah, the whole situation's a bit ridiculous, because ultimately what Gregg did in that argument that night with his now wife, then girlfriend, was wrong. That's undeniable and unquestionable. Reporting it, again, is something that should have happened, but arguably, in an ideal world 20 years ago, maybe she would argue, Raina's mum would argue, it wouldn't have been taken seriously at the time. Women's rights have come forward in leaps and bounds in 20 years. It's more of an opportunity of a conviction now. My main concern really is the motivation for it and the timing. There's no coincidence that she just happened to report this crime now, after Gregg Berhalter had told her son that he's not playing in the World Cup. So I suppose then I was thinking, is it down to complete spite? Is he just saying, well, I've got some dirt on you, so you don't give my son what he wants, and I'm gonna make your life hell? Or is it more of a, well, I don't like you because of what you did to my friend and roommate, and now you're starting to manipulate my son. I've held on to this information for long enough. Now it's time to break it to people. So yeah, it's just a really bizarre situation. It's difficult. There's bit grey areas everywhere, I do think it's the right thing to do to report it. I do think it's obviously terrible and should never have happened in the first place, the original kick. But the other stuff that happened in between, I can understand why a 20-year-old would have a little tantrum at being told he's not going to play. I can understand why he would phone his mum about it. I can understand why she would want to report it, but it's just in that order I've got the issue. And also just the fact that they're not talking about the success of the national team and how hard they worked, all the individual sacrifices, they're all talking about this now in the news. So yeah, it's a scandal. It's an absolute scandal, and there's no clear answer. I don't think there's going to be a winner in this, because if he is the coach, is he going to pick Raina at all? Is he now going to be out of the national team out of spite? Is he going to feel like he needs to bow to pressure? Is he actually going to be picking the team? Or is he going to be scared to make this decision or that decision in case it looks this way or doesn't look that way? Pandering to outside forces. Is it going to wreck Raina's experience of playing in a World Cup on home soil? Because he is a talent, obviously. And if he doesn't get picked because, let's say, he's not in form, then is that going to then be made into a media storm? You don't want that as the home nation in a World Cup. You want to focus on the football, soccer, and you don't want those distractions taking place. So I think everyone loses, because everyone involved has been hurt by the situation, and no one really wins. So yeah, I think the end game is just that everyone misses out. You know, do they pick a new coach? Maybe they pick a coach that isn't as good as Gregg, and they don't do well at the next World Cup. Maybe they do pick him, and they haven't got maybe Rayner's their best player at the time, and he doesn't get picked at all. Or think about the poor wife of Berhalter. You know, what she's going through. Think about the relationship with her and Rayner's mum. Has that been destroyed? A friendship? It's just a weird situation. I can't imagine anything like that happening in British football. Can you imagine? You know, I'm trying to think of the equivalent. Phil Foden doesn't get picked in the World Cup for England, so he phones his mum, and his mum reports Gareth Southgate for something he did 20 years ago. It's just weird. So yeah, fill in the gaps, guys. Go to the comment section if you're watching this video, and I want to know if I summarise what I understood, but like I said, we haven't had as much news about this as you guys have. It doesn't have as much coverage here. So let me know if you think my interpretation is correct, if I've missed something out, if I've totally botched it and it's like not quite as I said it was. By all means, correct me. I'm happy to be corrected. But yeah, what do you think about Rayner's opportunities in the national team? Who do you think will be the coach? Do you think Berhalter will get the coach's job again? How do you think that'll affect his team picks? Do you think it'll if he does get the job or doesn't get the job, do you think it's already left a sort of a nasty mark on the World Cup, which is going to be in like 3 years' time now, not long at all, in the USA? So it's about 2.5 years actually. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I look forward to reading through it and finding out a little bit more from all the stuff I don't really understand. So yeah, drop the video a like if you enjoyed this little ramble, and if you've got any other more controversial things you want me to talk about, look into, then write them in the comments section as well. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We do lighter-hearted videos often about the Champions League and Premier League on this channel, but every now and again I do a little bit more of a topical debate ramble, so I hope that you've enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'll see you really soon with normal videos again. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Bye. Bye.